The twin suns of Tigix 7 were setting, casting long shadows across the frozen wasteland. The light turned the snow fields pink and orange. In a valley between tall ice mountains lay two massive creatures. They were bound by strange, glowing chains that hummed with power. They were not dragons as humans might imagine from old stories. They were Ryong, a space-traveling species whose bodies were part flesh, part crystal. These crystals let them fly through the emptiness between stars without ships. Their scales shimmered even now, though dulled by cold and hunger. Day was the larger of the two. His once bright blue scales had turned pale. Ice formed along the ridge of spines that ran down his back. He tried to move, but the chains only tightened. "I can't feel my tail anymore," Day said, his voice deep and rumbling like distant thunder. Beside him, June lifted his head slightly. His scales were naturally green, but now looked gray in the fading light. "Save your strength, brother. The cold will take us soon enough." They had been elite scouts for the Ryong Collective, sent to map this remote star system. Neither had expected the trap. The Void Hunters had come from nowhere, firing nets that disrupted their crystal structures before they could fight back. The strange chains were locked around them. 5 days now, June said, looking at the sky. "They are not coming back for us." The Void Hunters were well known across the galaxy. They captured rare creatures for rich collectors who kept them as living trophies. But something had gone wrong. The hunter's ship was damaged in an asteroid field. They had left the Ryong on this frozen moon, promising to return with a bigger ship. Both Ryong knew it was a lie. "The chains are made of neutronium," Day said, trying once more to break free. "Not even our fire can melt it." The special metal blocked their natural abilities. They couldn't regulate their body heat or access the energy stored in their crystals. Slowly, the cold was killing them. Night fell fully. The temperature dropped even lower. The wind howled between the ice mountains, carrying snow that buried their lower bodies. Soon, only their heads and upper torsos remained visible above the white blanket. "At least the stars are beautiful here," June said weakly. "A good place for final rest." Day was about to reply when he noticed something strange on the horizon. A small light bobbed up and down, moving toward them. At first, he thought it was a trick of his failing eyes. "June," he whispered, "do you see that?" June turned his massive head. His crystal eyes focused on the distant light. "Yes." "What is it?" As the light came closer, they could make out a small figure walking through the deep snow. The light came from a lamp attached to the figure's shoulder. Each step was difficult in the knee-deep snow, yet the figure kept moving forward with purpose. A living being, out here? Day couldn't believe it. This moon was uninhabited. Nothing could survive its bitter cold. Naturally, the figure climbed over a ridge of snow and stopped, looking up at the two massive creatures. It was wrapped in thick clothes with a clear mask covering its face. Through the mask, the Ryong could see features they recognized from their knowledge of galaxy species. "It's a human," June said with surprise. Humans were known throughout the stars as explorers and settlers, but they were rarely seen this far from their own territories. They were small creatures, fragile compared to many species, yet somehow they had spread across hundreds of worlds. The human stood still for a long moment, studying them. Then it began walking forward again, directly toward them, either very brave or very foolish, Day thought. When the human was about 20 steps away, it stopped and removed its face mask. It was female, with short black hair and dark eyes that showed no fear. "My name is Sun," she said, her voice clear in the still night air. A small device on her collar translated her words into sounds the Ryong could understand. "I'm from Earth." "You are far from home, human," Day said, his voice weak but still powerful enough to make the snow vibrate. That Sun nodded. "So are you, Ryong. Your kind doesn't usually visit ice moons." June's eyes narrowed. "You know what we are?" "Yes, I'm a scientist. I study life forms from different worlds." She put down the heavy pack she carried and pulled out a small machine. "I detected your energy signatures 3 days ago. Very faint, but distinct. You came alone to find unknown creatures." They couldn't understand such behavior. Sun smiled slightly. "Humans are curious by nature." She pointed to their chains. "Neutronium restraints, void hunters." "Yes," June said. "They left us to die. Sun walked closer, scanning the chains. With her device, she showed no fear standing between the beings who could swallow her whole. Your body temperatures are dangerously low, she said, looking at the readings. The crystals in your bodies are starting to crack. Day felt a spark of hope for the first time in days. Can you free us, human? Sun looked up at the massive chains, then back at her small hands. Not alone. These locks need special keys or enormous power to break. She paused, thinking. But I can help you survive until help comes. She opened her pack and took out several small devices. These are heat generators. They won't free you, but they might keep you alive longer. Why would you help us? June asked. We are nothing to you. Sun placed the first heat generator near Day's head. It hummed to life, creating a bubble of warm air. The relief was immediate. Because you're suffering, she said simply. And where? I come from. We don't walk past suffering if we can help. As she worked, placing more heat generators around them, the Ryong watched this small creature with growing wonder. The galaxy was full of species that would see to helpless predators as an opportunity or a threat. Yet this human, barely larger than one of Day's teeth, saw only beings in need. My research base is 10 kilometers from here, Sun said, activating the last generator. I have more supplies there and communication equipment. I can call for help. The warm air from the generators was already easing the pain of the cold. Day felt strength returning to his frozen limbs. Thank you, Son of Earth, he said. If we survive this, the Ryong will remember your kindness. Sun pulled her mask back on and picked up her now lighter pack. I'll be back tomorrow with food and medicine for your kind. Try to rest. As she walked away, becoming a small dot of light in the vast whiteness, the Ryong looked at each other. Humans, June said with newfound respect. Perhaps the stories about them are true after all. What stories? Day asked. That they are small in size but giant in spirit. That they rush in where larger beings fear to go. June looked at the heat generators, already pushing back the killing cold. And that they can work miracles under the light of strange stars. The two-chained dragons felt something they had lost days ago, hope. The morning came with a blast of wind that howled between the ice mountains. The heat generators Sun had left worked through the night, creating a small pocket of warmth around the Ryong. Day woke first, his crystal eyes adjusting to the bright light of the twin suns. June, he called to his brother. Wake up. June stirred slowly. His green scales looked slightly better than yesterday, though still dull compared to their normal shine. I dreamed of home, he said quietly. Of flying through the crystal forests. Save your strength, Day replied. The human said she would return. They waited as the suns climbed higher in the pale blue sky. The heat generators hummed steadily, fighting against the bitter cold. Without them, the Ryong would have surely died during the night. Near midday, they spotted a moving dot on the horizon. As it came closer, they saw it was Sun, pulling a large sled behind her. The sled floated above the snow on a cushion of air. She kept her word, June said. Surprise in his voice. Sun reached them and removed her face mask. Her cheeks were red from the cold, but she smiled. Good morning. You both look better today. She unloaded the sled, which carried more equipment and several large containers. I brought food for you. It's not what you're used to, but I analyzed your biology and made something that should help. The containers held a thick, glowing liquid. Sun poured it into large bowls and placed them near the Ryong's heads. The smell was strange, but not unpleasant. Day lowered his massive head and tasted the liquid. It was warm and filled with energy. This is good, he said with surprise. It's a nutrient solution, Sun explained. It should help repair your crystal structures. While they ate, Sun set up more equipment around them. She placed sensors on their scales and checked readings on her devices. The damage isn't as bad as I feared. Your species is remarkably resilient. We evolved to survive in space, June said between sips of the nutrient solution. But these chains block our natural abilities. Sun nodded and examined the chains more closely. Neutronium is rare and expensive. The Void Hunters must have really wanted you. We are prized for our ability to navigate the dark spaces between stars, Day explained. Some collectors keep Ryong as living maps. Sun's face showed disgust. Keeping sentient beings as property is illegal in human space. The galaxy is large, June said, and laws are only as good as those who enforce them. Sun continued working, setting up a larger heat generator and a small shelter between the two Ryong. I've contacted my research ship, she said. They're 3 days away. They have equipment that might help break these chains. Your people would come all this way for strangers? Day asked. Sun looked up at him. You're not strangers. You're Ryong. Your kind helped humans map the stars centuries ago. There are stories about Ryong guides who saved lost human ships. This was true. Long ago, when humans first ventured beyond their home system, Ryong had sometimes guided their primitive ships through dangerous regions of space. It was surprising that humans remembered. Tell me about yourself, son of Earth, June said. Why are you alone on this frozen moon? Sun sat down on a folding chair she had brought. I'm a xenobiologist. I study life forms from different worlds. This moon has simple organisms living under the ice that can survive extreme cold. I've been studying them for 2 months alone. They couldn't imagine choosing such isolation. My research ship visits every few weeks with supplies. I prefer working alone sometimes. It's peaceful, she smiled. Or it was until I found 2 giant space dragons chained to a mountain. Despite their situation, both Ryong made a rumbling sound that was their version of laughter. And you, Day and June. Sun said, tell me about yourselves. So they told her. They spoke of their home world with its floating crystal islands and 3 moons. They described how young Ryong learned to fly between stars by following their elders. They explained how their crystal organs stored energy from stars, allowing them to travel vast distances without ships. Sun listened with wonder in her eyes. She asked questions that showed real understanding and interest. As the day passed, the Ryong found themselves enjoying the conversation, despite their captivity. Your kind is fascinating, Sun said. In human space, there are many stories about dragons, creatures like you from our myths. They were powerful, wise, and sometimes dangerous. And were these myth dragons good or evil? June asked. Both, neither. It depended on the story. Sun checked her devices. In some tales, dragons guarded treasures. In others, they gave wisdom to those brave enough to seek them out. As the suns began to set, Sun activated lights around her small camp. The glow created a warm circle in the growing darkness. I must return to my base for the night, she said. The temperature drops too low for me to stay, even with my gear. But I'll come back tomorrow. The void hunters might return, Day warned. It would be dangerous for you. Sun packed her tools with careful movements. My sensors would detect any ship entering orbit. And besides, I'm not easy to catch. She patted a small weapon at her side that the Ryong hadn't noticed before. You are very brave for such a small creature, June observed. Sun smiled. Humans have to be brave. We're not the strongest or fastest species in the galaxy. We don't have natural weapons or armor. But we're stubborn and we don't give up easily. She pulled on her face mask and checked that the heat generators were working properly. Rest well. The nutrient solution should help your bodies heal. Tomorrow I'll bring equipment to try breaking one of the smaller chain links. As she prepared to leave, Day spoke. Son of Earth, we owe you a debt. She looked up at the massive creature. No debt. Just remember that size isn't everything. Sometimes the smallest beings can surprise you. They watched as she walked away, pulling her empty sled behind her. Her light grew smaller until it disappeared behind a ridge of ice. Strange creatures, humans, June said thoughtfully. So fragile, yet they venture into the coldest, darkest places alone. Perhaps that is their strength, Day replied. They know they are small, so they learn to be clever instead. The night grew deeper. Stars appeared in the black sky above stars the Ryong had once soared among freely. For the first time since their capture, they allowed themselves to hope they might do so again. In the distance, Sun's research base glowed like a tiny star on the frozen landscape, a small beacon of warmth and life in a world of ice and death. Like the human herself, it seemed impossibly fragile yet somehow enduring. The Ryong settled in to wait for morning, their thoughts on the small being who had walked fearlessly between 2 chained dragons. The second day dawned clear and cold. Ice crystals hung in the air, catching the light of the twin suns and turning it into thousands of tiny rainbows. Day and June had slept better thanks to Sun's heat generators. and the nutrient solution. That still worked through their bodies. I feel stronger today, June said, flexing his claws against the chains. The metal still held firm, but some color had returned to his scales. Day nodded. The human's medicine is working. My crystal structures are healing. They didn't have to wait long before Sun appeared. Today she drove a small vehicle across the snow instead of walking. It moved on wide treads that left deep tracks behind it. She parked near them and jumped out, carrying new equipment. Good morning, she called, her breath making clouds in the cold air. How are you feeling? Better, Day replied. Your medicine helped. Sun smiled and began setting up her new equipment. I brought a chain cutter today. It won't break the neutronium completely, but it might weaken one of the links. The device she assembled looked too small for the task. It was about the size of her arm, with a glowing blue edge. The chains that held the Ryong were as thick as Sun's leg. That tiny thing will cut these chains? June couldn't keep the doubt from his voice. It uses focused plasma, Sun explained. The same technology we use to cut through asteroid metal. I'm not sure it will work on neutronium, but we can try. She worked carefully, setting the cutter against one of the smaller links in the chain that bound Day's right wing. This might get hot, she warned. The cutter hummed to life. Blue-white energy flowed from it, wrapping around the chain link. Sun's face was tight with concentration as she guided the tool. Sweat formed on her forehead despite the cold. After 10 minutes, she turned off the cutter and examined the chain. There was only a small mark on the metal. As I feared, she sighed. Neutronium is too dense for this tool. She looked up at the Ryong. I'm sorry. We'll have to wait for my ship. They have stronger equipment. Day felt disappointment, but not surprise. You tried. That is what matters. Sun packed away the cutter and brought out more containers of the nutrient solution. While the Ryong ate, she checked their condition with her scanning devices. Your vital signs are improving, she said, but these chains are doing damage every hour they stay on. They're designed to suppress your natural energy fields. How do you know so much about Ryong biology? June asked between sips. Sun sat on her folding chair. I studied xenobiology at Earth University. Ryong physiology was part of the advanced course. Your species is famous for your unique crystal organic structure. She pulled out a small device and showed them images of what looked like a school. Young humans sat in rooms filled with strange equipment, learning about different alien species. Humans study all forms of life. Day was curious. Yes, we believe understanding other species helps us understand ourselves better. Sun put the device away. Also, humans are naturally curious. We want to know how everything works. As they talked, dark clouds began to gather on the horizon. Sun looked at them with concern. A storm is coming, she said. A big one, according to my weather sensors. The Ryong looked at the approaching clouds. They could feel the change in air pressure. You should return to your base, Day said. It's not safe here. Sun checked her equipment. The storm will hit in about 3 hours. I have time to set up better protection for you both. She unloaded more supplies from her vehicle. These were large panels that she connected together around the Ryong, creating a partial shelter. It wouldn't cover them completely, they were too big, but it would protect their heads and upper bodies. This will keep the worst of the snow off you, she explained. And I've brought stronger heat generators that should last through the storm. As she worked, June watched her with growing curiosity. Son of Earth, why do you work so hard to save us? We are nothing to you. Sun paused and looked up at him. You're living beings who need help. That's enough reason. Many species would see the predators in chains as a good thing. Day pointed out, or as an opportunity for profit. Sun continued setting up the shelter. Humans have a saying, the true measure of any society can be found in how it treats those who cannot help themselves. Wise words, June said. We don't always live up to them. Sun admitted, but we try. By midday, the storm clouds were much closer. The wind had picked up, blowing loose snow across the ground. Sun finished securing the last panel of the shelter. I need to get back before the storm hits, she said. My vehicle can handle snow, but not a full blizzard. She packed her tools and checked the heat generators one last time. These should keep you warm enough. My ship will arrive tomorrow if the storm passes quickly. As she turned to leave, Day spoke. Son, there is something you should know. She stopped and looked back. The Void Hunters who captured us, they are dangerous. If they return and find you helping us, they will not show mercy. Sun's face grew serious. I know. I've seen their work before on other worlds. Then you understand the risk, June said. Perhaps it would be wiser to leave us and save yourself. Sun stood straight, looking small but determined between the two massive creatures. That's not how humans do things. At least, not how we should do things. She climbed into her vehicle but paused before starting it. My people have a long history of making both terrible and wonderful choices. We've caused great harm and done great good. But one thing I believe we must help when we can, or we lose something important inside ourselves. The wind was getting stronger now, whipping Sun's hair around her face. I'll be back tomorrow, storm or no storm. Try to rest and save your strength. They watched as her vehicle moved away, soon becoming just a dark spot against the white landscape. The storm clouds rolled closer, turning the sky dark gray. She is either very brave or very foolish, June said. Perhaps both, Day replied. But I begin to understand why humans have spread so far across the stars, despite their fragile bodies. Why is that? Because they do not accept defeat easily. Even against impossible odds, they try. The first snowflakes began to fall as the storm reached them. Soon the air was filled with swirling white. The shelter Sun had built kept the worst of it away from their heads and protected the heat generators in the growing darkness. The Turiong huddled under their partial protection. The chains still bound them, but they no longer felt completely helpless. Do you think her ship will really come tomorrow? June asked. If she says it will, then I believe it will, Day answered. I think humans keep their promises. The storm howled around them, but inside their small shelter, there was warmth and something that had been missing for many days' hope. The storm raged through the night. Snow piled high around the Ryong, but the shelter Sun had built held firm. The heat generators worked tirelessly, keeping the worst of the cold away from their vital organs. Still, it was a long, difficult night. The human shelter is stronger than it looks, June said as morning light began to filter through the blowing snow. Day nodded. Like the human herself. By mid-morning, the storm had weakened. The snow still fell, but the fierce wind had died down. The Ryong could now see beyond their shelter to the white landscape that stretched in all directions. Do you think she will come today? June asked. The storm may have damaged her base. If she can come, she will, Day replied. He had grown to trust the small human's determination. That hours passed with no sign of Sun. The Ryong began to worry. Had something happened to her? Had the Void Hunters returned? The twin suns climbed higher in the sky, occasionally visible through breaks in the clouds. Then, just after midday, they heard a low rumble that grew louder by the second. It wasn't Sun's small vehicle. The sound was bigger, more powerful. A ship, Day said, his crystal eyes scanning the sky. Through the falling snow, a shape appeared. It was much larger than they expected, a research vessel, about half the size of the Void Hunter ship. It was sleek and silver, with blue markings along its hull. The name Horizon Seeker was written in human letters on its side. The ship hovered above them, its engines blowing away the loose snow. Slowly, it descended to land about 100 meters away. A ramp extended from its side, touching the ground with a soft hiss. 3 figures emerged, all wearing protective suits against the cold. The Ryong recognized Sun immediately, even bundled in her gear. She was talking excitedly to the 2 humans who followed her. That's them, they heard her say as the group approached. The Ryong I told you about. The taller of her companions stopped in his tracks when he saw the chained dragons. By the stars, he said, his voice carrying in the cold air. You didn't exaggerate their size. Sun led them closer. Day, June, these are my colleagues. This is Han, our ship's engineer, and this is Jin, our medical officer. Han was tall and thin, with serious eyes that studied the chains with professional interest. Jin was shorter, with a kind face and quick movements. Both looked at the Ryong with wonder rather than fear. How did you survive the storm? Sun asked, checking the heat generators. Your shelter protected us, Day told her. It is well built, Sun smiled. Good. Now, we've brought equipment that might break these chains. Han was already examining the neutronium links. I've never seen restraints like these before. The quantum locking is very advanced. He returned to the ship and came back driving a larger vehicle. This one carried a device that looked much more powerful than Sun's small cutter. It was a heavy machine with multiple arms and a control panel covered in lights. This is a quantum field disruptor, Han explained as he positioned it near the chains. We use it for mining operations on asteroids with unstable quantum fields. It might work on these chains. Jin approached the Ryong with scanning equipment more advanced than Sun's. I need to check your condition before we try anything. The sudden release from these chains could cause shock to your systems. While Jin examined them, Han and Sun set up the disruptor. They worked quickly and efficiently, like they had done this many times before. Your crystal structures show significant stress, Jin told the Ryong after completing her scans. But no permanent damage. You're remarkably resilient. We evolved to withstand the vacuum of space, Jun explained. Our bodies can repair most damage if given time. Han called them over. The disruptor is ready. I've analyzed the chain structure. There's a primary control link that manages the quantum lock. If we can break that one, the whole system should fail. He pointed to a slightly different looking link near where the chains connected to the ground. That's our target. But I have to warn you, we only have enough power for one attempt. The disruptor draws massive energy, and we can't recharge it out here. Sun looked up at the Ryong. Are you ready to try? Yes, Day said without hesitation. Jun nodded in agreement. Then let's do this, Han said. He began activating the disruptor. Lights flashed across its control panel, and a low hum filled the air. When I give the signal, you both need to pull against the chains as hard as you can. The disruptor will weaken the quantum field for about 3 seconds. That's our window. The Ryong tensed their massive bodies, ready to pull. The chains had held them for days, but now they gathered what strength they had left. Powering up to maximum, Han called out. The disruptor's hum grew louder, and the air around the target link began to shimmer. Ready in 3, 2, 1. Now, Day and Jun pulled with all their might. The chains groaned under the strain. For a terrible moment, nothing happened. The link held firm despite the disruptor's power. More power. Sun shouted. Han pushed a lever forward, and the disruptor's hum became a high-pitched whine. Suddenly, with a sound like breaking glass, the link shattered. A wave of energy rippled along the chains, and one by one, the other links began to break. The quantum lock had failed. The chains fell away from the Ryong's bodies, dissolving into dust as they hit the snow. After days of captivity, Day and Jun were freed slowly, carefully. They rose to their full height. Day stretched his wings, which spanned nearly 50 meters from tip to tip. Jun shook his body, shedding the last pieces of chain and ice that clung to his scales. The humans stepped back, suddenly very aware of how small they were compared to the creatures they had just freed. Thank you, Day said, his voice deep with emotion. We owe you our lives. Sun smiled up at them. How do you feel? Weak, Jun admitted, but alive. Our natural energy systems are starting to function again. Jin checked her scanner. Your vital signs are stabilizing, but you need time to recover fully. Your crystal matrices need to recharge. You're welcome to come to our ship, Sun offered. We have a cargo bay large enough for you both. You can rest there until you're strong enough to travel. The Ryong looked at each other. They had been prisoners for so long that the offer of shelter, even well-intentioned, made them hesitate. Sun seemed to understand. Or we can bring supplies out here if you prefer to stay in the open. No, Day decided. We will accept your hospitality. The cold still weakens us, and we need to recover our strength before we can travel through space again. The humans led the way back to their ship. The Ryong moved slowly, their muscles stiff from days of immobility. Their massive forms dwarfed the humans walking beside them. As they approached the Horizon Seeker, Han pressed a control on his wrist. The ship's cargo bay doors opened wide, revealing a space large enough for the Ryong to enter comfortably. It's not luxurious, Han said, but it's warm and safe. Day ducked his head to enter the bay. Inside, the space was clean and well-lit. It smelled of metal and human technology, but it was indeed warm. Rest now, Sun said as Jun followed Day inside. Tomorrow we can talk about what comes next. As the cargo bay doors closed, the Ryong settled onto the floor. For the first time in many days, they could relax without the bite of cold or the weight of chains. Humans are strange creatures, June said quietly. Yes, Day agreed. But I am glad they are strange in ways that saved our lives outside. The snow continued to fall on the empty chains that lay scattered across the ground. 3 days passed aboard the Horizon Seeker. The Ryong recovered quickly once they were warm and properly fed. The ship's cargo bay became their temporary home. The humans had cleared the space and brought in heating units. Designed for the Ryong's unique biology, each day, Sun and her colleagues visited them, bringing specially prepared nutrient solutions that helped repair their damaged crystal structures. Jin, the medical officer, checked their healing progress twice daily. Your recovery is remarkable. Jin said on the morning of the 3rd day, your crystal matrices have almost completely regenerated. Day stretched his massive wings as much as the cargo bay would allow. The blue glow had returned to his scales, pulsing with renewed energy. Beside him, June's green scales shimmered with their natural light. We heal quickly when our energy systems are working properly, Day explained. The chains prevented that. Sun entered the cargo bay carrying her scanning equipment. Good morning. How are you feeling today? Strong again, June replied. Thanks to your care. Sun smiled and set up her scanner. I've been studying the data from your recovery. It's fascinating how your bodies convert stellar energy into biological power. The Ryong had grown used to Sun's endless curiosity. She asked many questions about their physiology, their home world, and their culture. Unlike the Void Hunters, who saw them only as valuable prizes, Sun saw them as intelligent beings with knowledge to share. Han joined them, carrying a star chart. I've mapped the nearest Ryong territories based on our database, he said, spreading the chart on the floor. The closest outpost appears to be here, in the Taeyang system. Day lowered his head to examine the chart. Yes, that is correct. It's about 17 light years from here. Can you travel that far in your condition? Jin asked with concern. Yes, June said confidently. Now that our energy systems are functioning again, we can travel through space unassisted. It will take us about 3 months, but we can rest at stellar nurseries along the way to recharge. The humans looked amazed, as they always did when the Ryong described their natural space travel abilities. It's still hard to believe you can survive in vacuum, Han said. No ship, no protection. Space is our natural environment, Day explained. Our ancestors evolved in the upper atmosphere of our home world, then gradually adapted to venture into space. Our crystal structures protect us from radiation and store energy from stars. Sun finished her scans and sat cross-legged on the floor. Will you return to your collective immediately? We must, June said. The Void Hunters who captured us are still operating in this sector. Our people need to be warned. Han nodded grimly. We've reported their activities to the Human Space Authority, but their jurisdiction doesn't extend this far. The galaxy is vast, and laws are often just words on distant worlds, Day said. This was a reality all spacefaring species understood. After midday, the humans called a meeting in the ship's common room. The space was too small for the Ryong to enter, so they watched through the cargo bay's open door. Sun stood before her colleagues, speaking with passion. Before Day and June leave, I want to establish a formal contact protocol between humans and Ryong, she said. This encounter has shown that our species can benefit from cooperation. Han looked uncertain. The Ryong collective has historically kept to themselves. They rarely engage in formal relations with other species. That is true. Day called from the cargo bay. But exceptions can be made for those who have earned our trust. Sun smiled at this. I propose we share our research data with the Ryong, and in exchange, perhaps they could provide navigation information for some of the uncharted regions they've explored. The discussion continued for some time. By evening, a simple agreement had been reached. The humans would share their scientific findings, and the Ryong would provide safe travel routes through dangerous space sectors. As night fell, Sun visited the cargo bay one last time. We've decided to leave tomorrow, she told the Ryong. Our research mission is complete, and we need to return to human space. We will leave tomorrow as well, Day said. Our strength has returned, and our people must be warned about the Void Hunters. Sun nodded, then hesitated. I have a request, if you're willing. Our ship's sensors would like to record your space launch. No human has ever documented how Ryong transitioned from planetary environments to space travel. It would be valuable research data. The Ryong considered this. Normally, they kept their methods private, but these humans had earned a measure of trust. We will allow it, June decided. Consider it the beginning of our knowledge exchange. Sun's face lit up with excitement. Thank you. I'll make sure the sensors are calibrated properly. The next morning, the cargo bay doors opened to reveal a clear, cold day. The storm had passed completely, leaving a pristine landscape of white snow under blue sky. The twin suns shone brightly, their light reflecting off the ice crystals. The Ryong stepped outside, their massive forms casting long shadows across the snow. The humans stood nearby, bundled in their cold weather gear. Han held a recording device while Jin monitored her medical scanner. Sun stood slightly ahead of them, her face showing both happiness and sadness. This is where we part ways, Day said, his deep voice carrying in the still air. Sun nodded. Safe journey to you both. I hope your people receive you well after your ordeal. Before we go, June said, we wish to give you something. Both Ryong raised their wings. With careful movements, they each removed one small crystal scale from their bodies. The scales continued to glow with the same light as the Ryong themselves. These are living scales, Day explained, lowering his head to place his scale in Sun's hands. It was about the size of her palm, shimmering with blue light. They will never dim or die as long as we live. June placed his green scale in Han's hands. If you ever need to contact us, focus your thoughts on the scale. We will hear your call, no matter how far away we are. Jin looked at them in wonder. Is this some form of quantum entanglement? Something similar, Day said, but based on crystal resonance rather than quantum states. The humans accepted the gifts with reverence. Such technology was far beyond their understanding, yet here it was, given freely as a token of friendship. Thank you, Sun said, carefully placing the scale in a secure pocket. We will treasure these. The time for departure had come. The Ryong moved away from the ship, giving themselves space for what would come next. The humans watched from a safe distance, their recording devices active. Day and June spread their wings to their full span, nearly 100 meters between them. Their scales began to glow more intensely, pulsing with building energy. The snow around them melted as their body temperature rose. Farewell, humans of Earth, Day called. Remember us in your stories, and we will remember you in ours, June added. With that, both Ryong launched themselves skyward. Their massive bodies rose with surprising grace, climbing higher and higher. The air around them began to shimmer as their crystal structures created protective fields. The humans watched in awe as the Ryong ascended. Soon they were just bright points of light, one blue, one green against the dark sky. Then, with a final flash, they broke free of the moon's gravity and accelerated into space. Sun watched until the last trace of light faded. Safe journey, she whispered. Back aboard the Horizon Seeker, Sun wrote in her research journal. Today I witnessed something few humans ever have, the Ryong returning to their natural home. Among the stars, they came to us as prisoners on the edge of death. They leave as friends, carrying our story back to their people. And we carry a piece of them with us, a living connection across the void. She looked at the glowing scale in her hand. Perhaps this is how peace spreads across the galaxy, not through grand treaties or alliances, but through small acts of kindness between different beings who find each other in the snow.